When I meet this couple, it is 9 months after the revelation of his infidelities.
And the way she discovered it was the worst way possible.
I went for a gynecological checkup and I was diagnosed with chlamydia.
Belgian psychotherapist Esther Perel's podcast Where Should We Begin records conversations between Esther and her clients as they attempt to piece together their shattered relationships. Her best-selling books have been translated into dozens of languages and her online talks watched by tens of millions of people. Esther's work challenges how we view love and the people we share it with.
The idea of finding the one is problematic for relationships.
Esther Perel, welcome to The Weekly.
Thank you, it's a pleasure.
Now let's start with something simple, easy one out of the way. What is the secret to a successful marriage?
Oh my God, you go right to the essence. I don't think there is a secret to a successful marriage. I mean, this is not a formula. I think that there are certain values, principles of ways that we are with each other that confirm, if you are in a relationship where you experience that the other person respects you, that the other person values you, that you exist in the inside life of another person who takes you with them wherever they go, even when you're not around, which allows you to be alone without feeling that you are lonely. It's those things that make being in a relationship one of the most valuable human experiences that we can have. On the other side, the lack of all of that can make us quite miserable.
So how has marriage changed over time?
Oh, I think it's one of the institutions that has actually gone through an extreme makeover. Most of history, you have marriage that is primarily an economic, pragmatic enterprise. It's for children, for economic support, companionship, social status.
Some people watching right now are going, yes, 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 and yes.
Yes, and it still is all of that, by the way. It was also a one-time occurrence in life. You did it once, you did it without an exit, and if you didn't like it, well, you were stuck. And you could always hope for an early death of your partner. What has changed? We brought love to marriage, then we brought sex to love, then we connected sexual satisfaction to marital happiness, then we allowed women to finally go into their own bank accounts without having to have their husband's permission, then we created divorce laws that allowed people to leave, then we brought happiness to the enterprise, and now we don't just leave because we are unhappy, but sometimes we even divorce because we could be happier. So it is a completely different institution that is not just there for our basic human needs, it's there to help us self-actualize and develop the best version of ourselves. Unprecedented expectations have been brought to this thing called marriage.
Do you think those expectations are too high?
I think that this new Olympus is a fantastic place to go, but very few people can climb the mountain. I think that, my colleague and friend Eli Finkel says, on top of the mountain, the view is really beautiful, but the air is thinner. Those who get there probably are better relationships than any relationships we've had in the past. But for many, many people, it's often a real challenge. It's a lot of things to pack into one person and to ask one person to give you what once an entire community used to provide. Meaning everything, marriage, children, family, etc. But I want you to be my best friend, and I want you to be my trusted confidant, and you need to be my passionate lover, and all of this for the long haul, and the long haul has just doubled.
Wow, it does sound like a lot of work when you say it that way.
You get tired just listening to it.
So we should just marry a team. It sounds like there's a lot of jobs to be done. Should we marry a team of people to serve all of those
No, we
needs?
should marry one person, but we should live in a team. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So each episode of your podcast is one session with a couple.
Yes.
And it has this huge following. What is it about listening in on another couple that people find so intriguing?
Right. Took me a while to understand it myself. I think what happens is this. One, very few people know the truth about what's really going on behind closed doors of another couple. Two, we are submerged with fake news and people curating and filtering beautiful renderings of their lives, and we have no idea what really goes on. Three, because we don't live in these villages where you know everything that's happening, many times you wonder, am I the only one? And what's it like? How do other people deal with miscarriage? How do other people with being sexually rejected? How do other people deal with infidelity? And because there's such pressure on couples looking good and being happy and achieving the whole thing, it puts people in situations of shame and silence and secrecy. So the podcast blows that open.
And it's so useful and it's so constructive. At the same time, have you ever been listening to a couple and then just written down on your notepad, they are doomed?
I don't just write it down, I say it. Literally, I say to them at the end of the session, you probably are better off being friends. You have no chance as a couple. You people should be friends.
Yeah.
You would be tremendous friends for each other.
Yeah.
I'm not sure you're meant for couple. Sorry. And I sound very confident, but that doesn't mean I'm right. Let's be very clear.
You're playing with people's lives, Esther.
I am, which is why I am extremely careful about it. And I didn't just say it's over. I just said, from everything I heard here, you have a good chance at being friends. When you are friends, you bring the best out of each other. But every time you've been a couple, and they've been a couple a few times, you really are not kind to each other. Kindness is really important. That's a word that encompasses a lot of integrity. Think about it. Then I leave you with the dilemma. Ultimately, you make the decision because you're the only one who lives with the consequences of your decision, not me.
So is a good relationship the key to a good sex life, or is a good sex life the key to a good relationship?
Oh, that's a great question. I started writing Mating in Captivity because people would come to my office and say, we love each other very much, we have no sex. And the concept always was, if you have troubles in the bed, it's because you have troubles in the kitchen. That sexual problems are the consequence of relationship problems. So you just fix the relationship and the sex will follow. And I began the work because I had fixed a lot of relational things, so to speak, and it did nothing for the bedroom.
Right.
And so I began to think love and desire, they relate, but sometimes they also conflict. And herein is the mystery of eroticism. For some people, love and desire are inextricably connected, and for others, they are actually irretrievably disconnected. And finding that out is really the sleuth work. So, no, I think there are people who have wonderful, companionate, affectionate partnerships, and they feel alive with each other, and it doesn't necessarily go through properly sexual. But because what I'm looking at is not sex, but the erotic. Animals have sex. We have an erotic life. And eroticism is sexuality transformed by our imagination. So it means that you can have sex and feel nothing. Women have done that for centuries. So I'm not in the business of having people have more sex. I'm in the business of having people experience themselves, their erotic connection, their sexuality, their body, their sensuality, with a greater sense of joy and satisfaction. And once we put it like that, then I would say it's reverse. When people are well connected erotically, sexually, but that doesn't have to do with how often they have sex and what they do in bed, right? We've expanded that definition. It's not the genitally based, outcome based male model of sex. I'm talking about the broad spectrum of being touched, being cherished, being wanted, all of that. I think that it adds another dimension to a relationship, yes.
Well, how well is it working though? You're here for the Vivid Ideas Festival in Sydney. The theme is loneliness.
Yeah.
Are we more lonely than we've ever been before?
The new loneliness, I think, is different. The new loneliness is not a physical thing, I'm isolated. It's a kind of loss of trust and social capital that you sometimes experience while you're lying next to your partner in bed. If I'm next to you and you're in your phone, or in your on your social media, and I'm talking to you, but you have that delay, and the person is kind of physically there, but emotionally absent. That gives people a feeling of neglect, of like, I'm talking to you about really important things, and you're kind of half listening to me. That's a form of loneliness that people are describing. A sense that they can text and they can send emojis and they can, but there is nobody literally showing up at the door. And it's the loneliness that comes from not being properly connected.
Esther Perel, thank you for your time.
Thank you.